We continue our Issues That Matter series this morning with a closer look at a critical topic President Trump highlighted during his address to Congress: America's crumbling infrastructure. The American Society of Civil Engineers gives the country's infrastructure a D+ grade in its most recent report card. I got one or two of those. Mom doesn't like those.
Nope.
Bridges, roads, and public transportation systems received no better than a C+.
And on Tuesday, President Trump announced his plan to help improve those grades.
To launch our national rebuilding, I will be asking Congress to approve legislation that produces a $1 trillion investment in infrastructure of the United States, financed through both public and private capital, creating millions of new jobs.
Anthony Foxx was the Secretary of Transportation under President Obama. Before that, as mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, he helped improve the city's public and transit system and expand its airport. Secretary Foxx, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the table. So the grade we just saw in 2013 was a D+. Before that, it was a D in 2009. So it's going up a little bit. As Anthony's mom points out, a D+ is never good. So how did we get to that point? What is happening in this country?
Well, if you think about buying a house and you pay the mortgage on the house, we basically didn't put in enough money to cover the maintenance for the house. So the roof starts leaking, and over time it gets worse and worse. And that's basically what's happened. The gas tax revenues that were used to build the highway system have now started to decline, and there's just not enough money to cover all of the backlog.
But why didn't we put in the money to repair the house?
Well,
I mean, it seems like we build other things and let the things that are existing not fix those.
The last time the gas tax was increased was back in the 1990s. It was an increase of 18.4 cents. That 18.4 cents is no longer worth what it was worth back in the early 1990s. And again, that's part of the problem.
And drivers don't like seeing their gas tax increase. But I mean, the president called for $1 trillion. Is $1 trillion enough? Is it going to do the job?
I listened very closely to the president's words. And by the way, let me just say, I think it is a good thing for the president of the United States to say this is a problem that needs to be addressed. I also do think, however, that when you read the fine print, what he's talking about is basically a set of tax credits that generate about $137 billion in tax credits that he believes will produce $1 trillion of investment. I happen to think that it's probably the case that some projects will get done under that kind of thing, but probably not all the projects that are generating the teeth-grinding traffic in the country.
Where should those infrastructure dollars be spent first? Is it roads, bridges, highways?
I think the money needs to be spent on where the clogs are the greatest, where the traffic and the congestion is the most. And we need to be more data-driven in how we do that. A lot of times we spread money in transportation like peanut butter across the country. But the reality is, if we declog the system and people actually see an improvement, it actually generates more political support for greater investments down the road.
You mean don't spread the peanut butter evenly? Go directly to certain places where it's most
go where the problems are and start to build around them.
I just wonder, you know, I keep thinking about, we get to talk to so many smart, important people in government like yourself. And, you know, one of the things I'm just thinking is they say it takes some crisis in order to propel the government to act. I mean, when's there going to be, it's going to have to take some bridge collapsing before Congress decides to move forward on this?
Well, you know, the unfortunate thing is that we've had bridge collapses. We had the one in Minneapolis.
In Connecticut. I remember the one in Greenwich, Connecticut years ago.
And so, you know, we've had the crises. But Congress did pass a 5-year surface transportation bill back in 2015. It continues the historic underinvesting of our infrastructure, but it's really going to take leadership from the White House. He's got the Congress behind him, hopefully, to get something done.
You mentioned this public-private partnership, this public and private partnership aspect of this, which is the real contention, it seems to me, in Congress here. What's the difference between a publicly funded bill and one that has private tax credits in it?
So we're really talking the difference between a funded project in a traditional sense or a project that spins off capital that can then be used to pay back the private sector money. The public, by the way, I think has a lot to say about this. And when you talk about it at the federal level, you have to remember the federal government doesn't really build projects. The federal government helps to fund projects at the state and local level.
Right.
So you've got governors and mayors that have to be on the front lines getting political support for private finance.
President Trump also said that his plan would create millions of jobs. And some people say, yeah, it would create jobs, but they're not sustainable. It would only be in the short term. What do you make of that? Do you think that's the case?
Well, look, I think when you make an infrastructure investment, if it's the right investment, it generates immediate jobs in the construction, but it also provides a catalyst for additional jobs if it's a plant that's coming in or what have you. So a lot of those decisions are made at the local and state level, and so you have to have smart investments in transportation in order to get those second and third order benefits.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I mean, there's bipartisan support for reinvesting in our infrastructure, right?
Absolutely.
It's just how to pay for it.
How to pay for it.
Yeah, nobody wants collapsing bridges on either side. So.
Secretary Foxx, thanks very much for joining us this
Good to
morning.
see you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.